Welcome to Business Prowess with Raphael and Juanita. Our show will bring you the best insights, ideas, and inspiration from successful entrepreneurs and CEOs in the business world. We'll talk to experts and business leaders. Don't miss out on the opportunity to learn from the best and stay ahead of the game. Sifu Raphael is the founder of 5 unique shows. He's a fitness professional, solutions expert, executive coach, and head instructor at Max Martial Arts and Fitness in New York. Juanita Cap is a public speaker who was in the ministry for 15 years. She has extensive knowledge of various topics such as leadership and communication, and has emceed many executive and academic events. Juanita is the founder of 2 unique shows. Her life motto is never give up. Welcome to Business Prowess with Raphael and Juanita.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to the Business Prowess podcast. And today we have a very special guest with us, and his name is Sean Malone. I'm going to bring him out of the green room on screen. Welcome, Sean. How are you?
Hey, Juanita. I'm great. How are you?
I'm so well, thank you. I have to tell the audience that we have the same roots. Sean comes from South Africa as well, so it's amazing to have you here. I also had Sean on Meticulous Moments, and the content that he shared was so amazing that we just had to get him on Business Prowess. Now, before we start, I just want to give a few pointers about who you are, Sean, and what you love to do. And these are that you're a husband, you're a cat dad, you're a disc golfer, a serial entrepreneur, and a sell-by-chat expert. So tell us a little bit more, because I don't think we talked too much about your amazing cats the last time. Tell us about everything that we've learned about you so far in this session.
Yeah, well, I mean, my wife and I live in Las Vegas. We have a condo kind of about 15 minutes away from the Strip. Been here since 2001 or 2002. And ended up moving out here because I invested in a company. I bought 50% of it, and I started running that company, and I grew that one pretty significantly from about 250,000 in revenue up to 8.5 million a year in revenue. And then the company was sold, which was good. It was kind of like my first big exit that I ever did. And then from there, my wife and I just kind of started selling. I started selling different things because that was the one thing that I've always been really good at in my background. And I learned the process through that journey. I learned how to sell. I learned how to communicate properly. I learned all the things that you needed to do. And in fact, I studied like 40 different selling systems, and I got to a place where I understood what worked and what didn't. And so it wasn't me just like getting good at something other like by doing it. It was rather I leaned on stood on the shoulders of giants to learn some of the skills and everything I needed to get where I was going. Personally, my wife and I love disc golf. We play, I used to be an avid regular golfer, ball golfer, and I played that for a long time, and pretty good at it. I actually became if anybody plays golf listening to this, I'm sure they do because lots of entrepreneurs do. They have something called the Long Drivers Association, where it's just where you just hit the driver and not the rest of the golf clubs. And I got really good at that. In fact, I was 8th in the world for 2 years. I was sponsored, and I got to tour around. And so my wife and I got to tour around the whole world just hitting golf balls, which is really fantastic. And that led me into we wanted to travel more after we got the taste. And so we tried to figure out like how to do it together. And we turned to the online game, just because with online business, you can really let go of things like a brick and mortar store, and you can let go of things like inventory if you do it right. And so we started doing that. And then we realized through some of our self-development, one of our mentors, Ty Lopez, actually said to us, hey, if you have another form of life in your life, like not human, it will make you 10% happier. I was like, okay, great. So we thought about what would be the animal that would make sense. And we ended up settling on cats because cats are, pretty self-maintained creatures. But I was heavily allergic to cats. And so there was this problem. And so I started studying cats. And this is a total side topic. But for all of you that don't know, there's 2 types of cat cats. There's hair-based cats, and then there's fur-based cats. And I never knew this. But the people that I was talking to said you probably won't be allergic to fur-based cats because the dander from their saliva falls off their fur when they lick it. Whereas if a cat licks hair, the dander stays on the hair. And when you get that hair on your face, that's what makes your eyes and everything go crazy. So I didn't believe him. And I ended up going to a pet store and I said, do you have any of these types of cats? There's only like 3 breeds in the US that are fur-based. And I found one of these fur-based and I picked the cat up and I rubbed it in my face and I went out in the parking lot. And next thing you know, I didn't get allergic reaction. And I was like, oh my gosh, we could actually get a cat. So we ended up settling on getting cats. We got these cats called Maine Coons. We have a male cat who's 30 pounds and his little sister's like 25 pounds, which is bigger than most people's dogs, which is incredible. And they're really chill. So we love our cats. We play a lot of disc golf, and because disc golf is easy and you can just buy a Frisbee and go to the park. And other than that, I've just always had this desire and this just internal clock that says, look, you're good at communication after you've learned all your stuff. You need to get it out to the world and share with other people how to communicate better. And I do that through the vocation of sales, high ticket sales specifically, but more so like the lost art of prospecting. Because a lot of people say, Sean, can you teach me to sell? Yes, I can teach you to sell on a weekend when you have the right format and you write the right system and flow. But the problem is if I teach you that stuff, if you don't have a consistent way to feed opportunities and eyeballs towards yourself and have those conversations, you're never going to be able to practice the stuff that you've learned and you're never going to get better at sales. And so that's kind of why the lost art of prospecting and then sales is a great thing for me to teach because I actually got really good at it. Yeah. So
that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I did not for the life of me know about fur-based and hair-based cats. That is so interesting. And I'm so happy to hear that you and your wife had the opportunity to travel the world. And as entrepreneurs, you had the innovative thinking to say, well, we love doing this. We don't have to be stuck to the brick and mortar, as you mentioned. We can still do good business, but it can be online. So very happy to have you here, Sean. You shared so many golden nuggets when we had our meticulous interview. And I don't think we even scratched the surface of all the knowledge that you have. And, I was reading some of the emails that I had this week in my inbox. And I want to touch a little bit on that today as we go through this session, because you share really good content in your email marketing. I mean, you are a master at marketing, and I absolutely love your emails when they come in. They are the first ones I turn to. And the one I want to start talking about is the Facebook algorithm. Please tell the audience about the Facebook algorithm, because that was very, very interesting.
Yeah, sure. So there's the Facebook algorithm. For those of you guys that don't know, when any social media platform is built and developed, you've probably heard the term algorithm, and nobody really knows what it is. And it was this big, like, vague, random thing. And so I started doing a lot of research, and I got to this place where I learned that there was an actual thing called EdgeRank, which is the basis of the entire Facebook algorithm. And I actually recorded a nice YouTube video about it. Maybe we can have a link to that YouTube video later in the show notes. But EdgeRank is a system that does a couple of things, right? And so it talks about something called an affinity score. It's between like the person that creates the content and the person that's reading the content. And then it talks about weight. So like when something is created, how many people are connecting or liking or engaging with it. And then they have this other thing called time decay, which how long it's been out there. And so like those three big topics are kind of like the main part of what EdgeRank is. But it basically it's the algorithm that decides which stories appear in which users' news feeds, right? So which stories are going to appear in this person or that person's news feeds. And the algorithm typically hides stuff that is boring, and boring is considered people not liking, commenting, or sharing, or interacting with it. So if your story or your content doesn't score well on this EdgeRank system, it's not going to be shown organically to enough people. Now, of course, you can put money behind it And then you can choose the demographic, psychographic of who you're going to send it to. But the first thing that when, you know, like, for example, is like when you log in, the first thing you usually see in Facebook is your news feed, right? This is a summary of what's been happening recently among your friends on Facebook, and every action that is taken, so everything that's like a post that's made on Facebook is called an edge. I don't know why they named it that, but that's just the name they use. So edges are the things that you post with, right? And so why should you care? Well, because most of your fans never see your status updates. And so if you can figure out how to use the EdgeRank system, and I'll give you some pro tips here. It's not very difficult to do. Is the first thing is you just got to make sure that the content that you're creating is original. So just be yourself. Don't try to copy anybody else. But again, as Picasso says, good artists copy, great artists steal. Look at the people in your industry that's creating really, really great content that's getting high engagement, and then take those concepts and put your own spin on them, right? That's the idea. And then you just want to make sure that it's high quality. So you don't want to have like choppy video or audio. You want to have it clean. You want to have like good audit editing. And then the last thing is just the invite for them to comment, like, or share, or like a call to action that has to be genuine, right? You want engagement. So in your videos, you want to just make it very simple with new kind of content with good editing, and then also having a solid call to action in there to drive engagement. And the EdgeRank system kind of weights things differently. Example, if Juanita and I are on social and it shows that Juanita is engaging in a ton of my content, but then I'm not engaging in too much of her content, let's say that was the case, then that means the EdgeRank score for me on Juanita's side is going to be higher than my EdgeRank score towards her, right? And so Facebook is going to show more of my stuff to her, but not as much of her stuff to me. And so that's really how the reciprocal piece comes. And so if you're going to use this, I think there's a lot of ways. I shared a couple of them, but I think the other thing that's important to remember is go to the people that you're trying to engage with in business. If you're using social to do this, comment, like, share some of their stuff, even if it's to your own profile. Again, if you like it, that's going to get them to be appearing more on your side, but then also it will show your stuff more to their side too.
That's absolutely incredible, and it's so important, that we do, that reciprocal support that we give each other, that we continue to do that, because it's important that as we walk along the journey, when we meet business partners, that we really show that support. I had no idea that behind the scenes in Facebook we have scorecards. I had no idea. I knew that liking content and commenting is beneficial for the person that's doing the post, but you made some very, very good points, and you actually did the research, and that's what I love about your company and the things that you do, your proven track record. You dig in, you go, you do the research, and you don't stop there. You actually go and apply it. Now, there's a lot of people out there that want to be in sales, that want to scale, that want to grow their business exponentially, but they feel that they don't have the right skills. They feel that they're not as salted as other sales individuals. And I remember you telling me a story about how your sales journey started. Would you like to tell the audience what you went through and how you reached the pinnacle where you are at today?
Well, the story is long. I'm not going to go through the whole thing again, but I'll maybe just start kind of like when we climbed into the online space and how we did that. I think that's probably a good place to start. So I came out of college, and the only question I had was like, how do I make a lot of money? And so my dad helped me give me some direction on that. And I went down the path. Basically, he said I had three choices. Was I CEO? And I didn't know what those letters meant at 21. Then he said, well, are you an entertainer? And I can't sing or dance, so that's not me. And he goes, well, then you better learn to do sales. And so that was kind of like the pre-thought of, after coming out of college, how do I make a boatload of cash? That was the answer I was given. And I took a sales job, and I was terrible at it. And it took a while for me to get a little bit better. I ended up reading a book that taught me some framework, and I changed the perception of like I had on sales, because I really kind of struck out when I first started. I almost quit. So if you're there, I can relate to you there. Like, don't quit. Go to the library and read a book was the advice my dad gave me. And I learned that there's these formulas. And so I started studying all these formulas, and I got really good at it. And I grew multiple companies that way. First of all, not my own company, and then my own company. And then that one got sold. And then it was like, okay, so now I'm moving into this online world. What does that look like? And so I knew that I could convert. I knew I could sell stuff because I learned it and I got pretty good at it. Right. And so if you're sitting there thinking like, oh, Sean, I want to do more. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to go online. Like, pick a skill that you need to learn and go learn it, right? I would encourage you to learn sales. There's a ton of different selling systems that are out there. We have our own. It's called the Ascension Selling Method, which is a combination of, I think, 40 of the best selling systems distilled down specifically for the digital marketing space. That's what ours is. And it teaches you kind of the fundamentals of how to sell. And so once you have some sort of a selling system, your communication becomes easier because you're relying on that system versus just the traditional prospect system. And so, and I can go down that's a rabbit hole that might make sense to go down after I kind of share the rest of this story here, Juanita. But the idea was when we came online, we said, well, look, I know sales, but I don't know marketing. And so we ended up buying a marketing program, and that marketing program ended up bringing people our direction. And since I knew how to sell, I was able to convert them. And that led us to building our very first software companies, what we got that award for. But we were actually helping people. It was all around solving a problem. And it was a problem that I had. So coming back to the audience here and just chatting with you is like, if you're really wanting to do something, like figure out the problem that you can solve that's interesting to you, and then go solve it for yourself, right? And so that's really what we did. And we solved this problem of how do we make money on the internet? And I knew I had a skill set of sales. I didn't know marketing or online or internet marketing. And so I hired a coach. Again, Juanita is amazing. If you haven't hired her, go do it because she can help you with all of this stuff. And I hired an internet marketing coach who taught us how to get traffic or get people to come our direction. And I knew sales. So then that was the next thing that I was able to do. And we built that company very, very quickly. It did over 8 figures, tens of millions of dollars in just a couple of years, which was great. And we ended up selling that company too. And then, and again, here's the market need scenario that made the most sense. Now, so we had sold this company. Now we're like, what do we do? And so we went to one of our other coaches, Russell Brunson, if you know the name, right? So I've been in his inner circle for a long time, love the guy and his family. And he said, well, what are you good at? We said sales. And then he said to me something that I was like, just because I was so deep in my own way, I didn't see it. He goes, all these online entrepreneurs are not very good at sales, Sean. You should help them do that. And I was like, whoa, that's interesting. And so Chris, my business partner, and I, we started calling people that we thought were really good at sales. We just wanted to call and see if they weren't good at sales. We wanted to ask. So we just got on the phone with them, friends that we had known, and said, hey, do you struggle with selling stuff? Like, again, a problem that I know we can solve. And they all said yes. It was insane. I couldn't believe it, actually. And then before we ended up speaking to about 40 or 50 of these people. And before we got off the phone with 5 of them, they said, look, we're not getting off the phone with you until you help us. And that was the birth of solving a problem for somebody, and it created our own digital marketing agency. That was like how it started. So it was a market need. So if you're looking at like, what business can I start, or how can I get going in a direction, just again, go back and focus on the problem that the market has. Like, ask them, right? Because you can't just make it up out of your mind. Most people, when they come out of college, they're taught this. It's not their fault. Build this magical widget and then figure out how to go to market and sell it. Right. And then it's your idea, thinking it's going to be this most revolutionary thing. And you go out and guess what? Nobody buys it because it's not a market need. And so the better way to do it, the real education that I wish school had taught, was listen to the market first, figure out what problems that you can solve based on the skill sets you've acquired in your life, and then build a business around that, because it's going to be easy for you to deliver that service because you already know how to do it. And then you're actually solving something that people want. And it drops the friction level. And so you're able to create sales velocity and turn deals over and move forward and grow. And so we built this agency. Oh, go ahead. I'll stop there for a second. So
no, please. Are you sure you don't want to continue?
Yeah, I can keep going. I mean, so we started this the sales agency, and we help these clients. And what do we help them with? Sean, I don't want to sell. Okay, great. That was their problem. Here's how to hire, onboard, and train sales teams. Very simple. right? We're going to put a sales ecosystem in your business. We're going to give you some sales guys. We're going to train them up for you, and then we're going to let you run. And so we did this with a lot of success, very high ticket products that we were selling. And then after about 4 or 5 months, these entrepreneurs came back to us and they said, Sean, Chris, thank you so much for the sales team. So now I don't have to sell anymore. But here's my problem. Here's the thing that's actually happening, which is the real problem. They said to us, I can't sleep at night because I don't know how to consistently find new opportunities and put them in front of the sales team that you just built me so that they can actually close those deals. And it was like this complete epiphany moment for us. We're like, oh, and that's where I shared earlier. It's like we could teach anybody to sell, but if you don't have a consistent stream of eyeballs coming your direction to actually sell to those people, you're not going to get good, or you're not going to get the results. And so then we're like, well, we have this little system that you could use, and it was off a piece of paper and a spreadsheet, pretty archaic, but we put it in their business, and every one of them just went like this, boom, boom, boom. We saw all this massive success. And so Chris and I looked at each other and were like, we should probably just teach that, because that's more valuable to all these other businesses than just learning or like setting up an ecosystem for selling. And so we started doing that. We actually formed a mastermind, and we built this big, long mastermind. It was a $25,000 a year mastermind where in 3 months, we taught you the system of how to get all the people coming in your direction. And then there was 9 months of advanced sales coaching, of which we would teach you, now that the people are coming your way, here's how to convert them all. And it worked well. We had almost 81% of all the businesses, dozens of businesses coming through that mastermind that had the biggest success and continue to have the biggest success that they've ever had. And we knew it was a thing. And so at that time, we're like, oh, we should probably create a software around this. And that was the birth of what I do now is the FlowChat software. And so that's really where we've gotten. And so now we built this software that allows you to basically, it's a multi-channel. So there's 9 different social channels that it works on. It's the only one of its kind that works on so many different social channels. And it helps you streamline and streamline all of your social media messages so that you can sell more often, more quickly. So it's a multi-platform chat management system is what I'd call it. Yeah.
Incredible. Those statistics are amazing. And, statistics don't lie. They really are a good indication of what we are doing right, what we can pivot a little bit, what we should let go of. And it's amazing, again, the tenacity to identify that problem, do the research, and then provide that need in the market. And because you were, ready to do those activities that were needed in order to build that foundation, it actually snowballed into so much more. Because as it evolved, as it grew, other opportunities presented itself. And when talking about sales and people that are not comfortable with maybe going into the sales, or people that are not confident, like we mentioned before, you said something very, very interesting and important. And the audience, I want them to listen. It's all about perception. The moment you change your perception about something and realize that it is possible for you, like you mentioned, Sean, to learn those skills. It's not something that's out of your reach. It's something that you can attain. It's something that you can actually get good at. And obviously, and I really encourage the audience to do that, get yourself a mentor. I did a live earlier today on another platform, and the whole session was about acquiring the right mentors. Who are the right mentors that you want to go look for? Because let's be honest, the market is saturated with mentors, but they might not be the right mentors for you or your specific line of work or your specific business and goal. Would you like to tell the audience what are things that they can look for in mentors out there? Any type of characteristics? I always go with morals and values have to align, because in the beginning it can be a wonderful venture, if you have this mentor, but if your morals and your values don't align, later down the line, later on that journey, it might become a problem. What are some pointers that you want to bring to the audience? Because you bring such a wealth of knowledge to marketing and sales and everything that you are putting into place. Tell us a bit more on your view about that.
Well, first of all, you're making me blush, and I'm very thankful for the kind words. So thank you. Yeah, I'm forever a student, right? I'm hungry to learn. I think that's something that is important. And I'll start by sharing, because I had like my brain's exploding with ideas right now to talk about. But I think the first thing is why people don't do things, right? People get fearful, right? I think fear is in real talk here. There's only two things that when you're born, there's only two fears that you have. The rest of them are made up. Do you know what they are, Juanita, by chance?
Maybe failure and death.
No. So the two things when you're born, you're fearful of, right, is fearful of loud noises, right? So loud noises is a real thing. When you're born, you're fearful of loud noises. And then the second one is fear of heights, right? And those are the two things that every human innately is born with. Every other fear that's ever come up in your mind, in your world, in your body, and everything you've ever, like, and it's real, it happens, is made up. It's made up from records in your mind. It's made up from stories that you've heard, videos you've watched, television shows you've, ingested, and so on and so forth. And so if you remember that, it makes it a lot easier when you come into a situation where you are fearful about doing something or growing a business or doing this or that or the next thing. And just remember this one thing, which leads back to what Juanita just said, is fear can be overcome with applied knowledge. Okay. So whatever you're fearful of, most people will run away. If you're the person that decides to lean into that fear and go do the research and the education of why you might be fearful about it and uncover all of the black area that you don't see yet by learning things in that space, you're not going to be fearful of it anymore. And this goes the same for talking about when you're finding a mentor or coach. Most people don't need a generic, I coach everything, I coach all, right? Because those people are, penny wise and pound foolish, as they call it, I guess. What I would encourage you to do is when you start to look for a mentor or a coach, yes, you have to have your values aligned. The thing that I would share with how Juanita said that is the easier way to put it. If you look on the negative side of that equation, it's do you and that potential coach hate the same things? Example, okay? Like if this coach over here speaks about nothing but politics and loves politics, and you're over here and you're like, I hate politics, it's going to be really difficult for you to work with that coach because you don't have the same view on politics, right? And so if you hate the same things, or if you align your values, as you say it on the positive side, negative, positive, doesn't matter, then it's very easy to work with that person. So I definitely agree having your values and your morals lined up with the coach that you choose is important. But how do you choose the coach that you choose? And so for me, when I'm looking at everything coaching, right? And I can give you a very, very explicit personal example because I have one, is I look at areas in my game, of my whole overall game, of where I'm weak, right? And so maybe I'm really strong at sales. Maybe I suck over here at marketing, right? Or whatever the case may be. So this is when I first joined the online world, I was very good at sales and I was really poor at marketing. So what did I do? I went and I spent $250,000 with Russell Brunson because he's one of the best marketers in the world and he can shed the light on all of the stuff that I didn't understand and I was fearful of in marketing. And then I learned it. And so I went to him for being my marketing coach and being like a sales funnel and tech coach because he's owned 17 different software companies and he's pretty good at that too. So that was the reason why I chose him. And then our business, I was looking at his business as a whole. And what I was finding is, again, my next coach that I hired, and I believe that people should have multiple coaches, not just one ever. And it should be in a phase of your life. Sometimes you can have multiple coaches. It's tough to have multiple. It's better to have one and get really good at that one thing and then move to the next one. And so after we had worked with Russell for about 3-4 years, we got like very good at the marketing side. And again, I always say I'm a student of marketing. I'm not very good at that, but I am pretty good at sales. We were like, okay, so now we're working 20 plus hours a day and we don't have any life. It's like, we need business coaching for structure for our business. Like, how do we do that? And then we went and we looked for the specialist coaches that taught business systems. Like, how do you like operating systems internally for business? Because that was a big gap that we had. And we didn't know how to manage it. And we couldn't get out of this working 20 hours a day. We ended up hiring a guy named Alex Sharfin for $65,000 for a year. right? And then what he did in the course of the year is he said, okay, we're going to restructure how all your meetings are for your business. Here's where you get your time back in your calendar. This is the cadence that your business now needs to run on forever going forward. And it took us a year to put that into our business. But guess what? We got back hours and hours and hours of our time. And I'm talking about like 20, 30, 40 hours a week that came back into my life that allowed me to do the things that I started a business for in the first place, which was to live my life on my own terms, to go travel, to do those things. And so it took hiring that specialist coach for that one thing that I needed to fix in order to find that time to be able to do the thing that I wanted to do. And so that's what I share is like, if you're looking for a mentor, yes, align values and morals, but more importantly, I believe is look at the area where you're the weakest and find a coach that specializes in that area to uncover all of the, the darkness. And so you have clarity and you don't have fear around that thing and you become pretty good at it. And then you can move forward.
That's the only way. Definitely. That's the only way, is to put that fear aside, to put your hand to work, to be that risk taker, because entrepreneurs are risk takers. We're problem solvers. And when you have to realize, when you start scratching that surface, you're going to have to keep digging. Like you said, we always stay students. I agree with you 100%. Get that, find out what that area is where you are lacking, like Sean said, and go and get good at that specific task or that specific niche, and then move on, because it's all about a journey. And it's important that we also, when we set aside our fear, it's really an empowering feeling when we conquer that new skill, when we get that new system in, when we learn how to work with it, when we're able to explain it to others. It's really an empowering feeling. And, the world has changed so much, Sean, since COVID. We are in a completely different setting now. It's now hybrid, mostly online, I'd say, because we connect globally. I do travel to the States, I go to live events, but 70% of the time it's online. And another email that I was focusing of yours earlier this week was about the DMs. Now, DMs meaning in Messenger, other messages that are coming through. And it's wonderful, of course, to use the DM system. I absolutely use it in my business every single time.
Cool.
And how you can make something like that work for you, but get it to a place
Juanita, if you can hear me, you kind of broke up there for a second.
Oh.
So
yeah, okay, here I am. Sorry, it's probably the signal. Let's talk about the DMs.
Sure.
We use it for personal and professional reasons, and it can be a lot to take in one day. Explain to the audience your method of working with DMs so that it's something that doesn't become exhausting and that it still works for you in your business.
Yeah, perfect. So just like anything, right? So like framework is the thing that I believe everybody needs to learn, because with anything, whether it be marketing or sales or DMs or anything, there's always a science and then there's an art, right? And if you learn the science, the theory of how it works and why it works the way that what way it does, specifically in the DMs, we're talking about human psychology. If you understand the dynamics of what needs to take place in a conversation, human to human, in order to convert a deal, and the framework or the major stepping points that you got to hit, then it should be pretty easy to layer your art or the words that you actually say to hit those points to achieve the objective. So I have a 5-point DM system. Okay. So every conversation, when you're using DMs to sell something, has 5 different parts of it. And if you know these 5 parts, and you know what to say at each part when you get there, the conversations become almost automatic and fairly easy for you to grow. So say, for example, you're trying to book calls for yourself on Zoom so you can potentially sell your product or service to somebody out in the world. And you want to use the direct messaging side to go direct cold outreach to people. And then you wanted to engage with them and start the conversation and move forward. Well, here's the 5 pieces of a DM conversation that are in every conversation. The first message, okay, so part one is engagement. So your first DM should never be selling your product or service. It should never be dropping a link. It should never be asking for a deal, because you can never sell from a first message. Anybody that does that is going to fail, right? The second thing we got to remember with if we're trying to get engagement. So our first message, our first step in this five steps here is to get engagement. The only thing that we're trying to accomplish with our first message is to get them to reply to us. That's it. So what do we need to say in your language, in your terms, that will get somebody to reply back to you? Now, over studying almost 350,000 direct message conversations, I can tell you that the best thing that you can say in your very first message, if you're going outbound cold to somebody you've never met before, is to just pay them a genuine compliment. Do not ask for anything, just pay them a compliment. Looks like you're crushing it, Juanita, comma. I love business entrepreneurs like you that actually make moves in the world and do awesome things. Keep it up. That would be a great first message to send to Juanita, because she'll be very receptive of that. And she'll come back and say, oh, thanks so much. Or maybe she'll just drop a heart, or maybe she'll do whatever, but she will engage in that message. So part one of this 5-part thing is you got to get engagement. Once you've gotten somebody to respond and engage with you, then all we need to do is we need to transition that conversation just a little bit to where we can go to the next stage, which is invite. So it goes engage, and we transition, and then we go to an invite, and then we go to a call to action, and then we go to what we call a clear future. So those are the 5. I've talked about the first one. Let me talk about the second one. So how do you transition, right? So now I've said that nice compliment to Juanita, and then I come back and I say, oh, great. Well, hey, I see that you're making moves in this space. What's the thing that's led to your biggest success? And she's going to be like, oh, well, now he's talking about business. He's talking about me, because people love to talk about themselves. And then he's going to, and he's going to be, well, now he's asking me a question about what's something that I've done that well. Most people love to brag a little bit. So then Juanita's going to come back and say, oh, well, I did this and it helped my business grow by this much. Oh my gosh, that's incredible. Did you have any big struggles or challenges going through the process? Now that's my next transition question, to where I can start finding if there's an area that we can actually find some ground to talk about a problem that you might be having that I can solve. And she goes, yeah, well, I did this and then I struggled a little bit here. Oh, shoot, tell me more about that, right? Another transition question. So at this stage, I've asked 3 transition questions, and all I've done is ask questions. I haven't shared anything about what it is that I do, my specialty, or anything like that. You understand that, right? So engage and transition. That's all we've done so far. And now she says, well, yeah, this is the problem. It's gone like this and this and this and boom, 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 boom. What she's done now in those 3 questions that I've asked is I've now found a window that I've opened that I can drop an invite, right? Because if you invite from the first or the second or even the third message, you're not usually going to get a good response. It's only when the person has opened up enough to where now it's relevant for you to come back and say, geez, I'm actually really good at that one thing that you just said that you're kind of struggling with. I think it would make sense for us just to connect on a call. Would you be open to it? And now Juanita says, well, yeah, I mean, like, he hasn't dropped a link. He hasn't been pushy. He's asked about me. I've bragged a little bit about myself. All these things are happening. I'm engaging with him. Sure. Yeah, I'll hop on a call with you. You seem like a genuine, normal person. And now when she says yes, okay, so now I've gone through, engaged, transitioned, and now I've just invited, hey, are you up for a quick call? I didn't drop a link. I've invited to a call. And then now I do the call to action, the CTA, or dropping the link. Great. Here's my calendar link. Book a spot that works for you and let me know when you book. And then she goes, great. Boom. I've booked on this day. Now we have all the way into the last step now is what we call the clear future. Perfect. I see you're booked in 2 weeks from now. I'm really pumped about the call. And by the way, here's a couple of things that I just want to cover on the call. Give them an agenda for the call that you're going to have. And if you do it like that, and you know that that's kind of the framework that you use, you can replicate it over and over and over in any industry, for any business, for any service. I've tested just about everything that you can think of. Example, had a girl named Jessanne that came to me and she's like, Sean, I want to build a dog walking empire. Shoot. Okay, cool. Let's do that. What, and then I started asking her questions. Is like, well, how do you want to do this? And what do you want to do? And we're on the phone and she's like, well, I want to walk dogs for people. I was like, okay, cool. So we set up a conversational DM outreach system that followed those 5 points. And guess what? In her first hour, she booked like 5 calls. By the end of her third day, she'd already locked up 2 new clients just through the DMs about dog walking. Now she's been using our system to the point where she has 25 dog trainers and she's filling up all of their calendars with dog walking events all through the DMs. It can be done, right? And so just sharing is like, if you have that right framework and you follow it step by step, because the art that you lay on top of the framework is the actual words that you say.
That's very well articulated. Absolutely. It's in the words that you say. Absolutely. The art that goes on the framework. It's in the words that you say and the psychology behind it. Very, very interesting. You have to know how to work with people. I'll share with you what happened with me recently. An individual on Facebook DM'd me lots of pictures of their products, and their first sentence to me was, "Hi, Juanita, I have all these products that I know you'll be interested in." And I didn't have time to open the images. I had a very busy week, but I just saw it coming in. And then when I didn't answer, the person started DMing, started commenting on my posts on Facebook. And every time they would comment on the post, they would say, "Hi, I sent you a DM." And immediately when that happened, I said to myself, this is going to be an exhausting connection for me because, they didn't wait for me to respond in a timely manner. And I didn't like the way that it is pushing that product, into my space, trying to get that. So I absolutely agree with you to work, because I work with people, I was a pastor for 15 years, and you have to show interest in the person, like you've mentioned. You have to really, ask those right questions that you've asked them, find out more about them. What are they struggling with? Does your product fit them? Will it be a good connection for you? Can you assist them in another manner, point them in the right direction? But for just to put that on people, fill their DMs, start to comment things on their posts just to get their attention, that's the wrong way to approach sales and marketing. Of course, I replied at some point and I said, I will definitely have a look at this. And then I looked at it and it wasn't a fit for me. But if it had been, approached in a different manner, I would have been more open to say, okay, well, let's guide you in this direction, or let's guide you in that direction. So the psychology is definitely a very important thing. And I do not want to close this session without us discussing your products, because I absolutely love the content you put out there. I love what you guys stand for. I love what you're doing out there with your family, and how you are bringing all of this knowledge to, your emails are emails that I read first. I'm going to be honest with you, there's always goodies in there. So tell the audience how they can reach you. I'm going to put it in the comment section here as well, in the description. And what are your products? How can they support you? Because I'm sure there is a big need out there for these frameworks and these systems that you have put together.
Yeah, sure. So we have the best way to kind of absorb some of our content. We have a really kick-ass newsletter that goes out every Monday, and then we also send some power tips on Thursdays. So we can have a link for you to register for the newsletter if you'd like to get there. We also, we run a software company called Flow Chat, just FLOWCHAT. You can go look at the website if you like. I'll give you a link directly to checking that out. But also, I think more importantly, if you know that you're already using the DMs and you kind of vibe off what you've heard today and it might be kind of up your alley, I would encourage you to just book a call with our team. I can give you a link directly through Juanita that can book a call with our team. And then we'll have just a very easy conversation with you, right? Like I train my sales team, right? So I know that they'll handle you with the kid gloves that are necessary and really build relationship and nurture with you. And get you to the point. And like our calls are very simple, right? We just ask a few questions, and there's 3 things that we try to identify during the call. First is, can we solve a problem? Look, the most powerful tactic you can ever have as a sales professional is not to sell. Let me say that again. The most powerful tactic you can ever have as a sales professional is you determining that this person is not a fit and you not to sell to them, right? because people always want what they can't have. And if you tell somebody, oh, I don't think you're a fit for what I do, it's not a big, and then you move on, people are gonna be like, whoa, hold on a second. And what happens is they now try to sell themselves on why they are a fit to you. And then you just listen, right? Which is great. But that's another pro tip for you. In the calls, we cover kind of three things. Number one, can we solve a problem? Number two, if we can, how and where would we use our technology to help you solve that problem at scale? And then number three, what does success look like? And if we can get to the end of those on a call, very simple, we'll just engage, lock arms and move forward and kick ass with you. If not, we'll tell you, hey, we're not a fit for you, right? And so that's what our call is about. It's very simple. And yeah, so FlowChat, again, is just a software that helps you to manage all of your DMs across all of the social media platforms. We have all the messaging that you're going to need ever, all the structure, and it's designed so it's one click to send a message really, really fast to prospects, and you can go at scale or as fast as you want to go, right? Typically what we find is when clients work with us, that our system can overload how many opportunities they have in order to close deals and build. And so it works extremely well.
Fantastic, Sean. This has been an impeccable session as always. We thank you for making the time. I know you are seriously busy, and you also have things that you want to get done on this wonderful Friday. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your expertise. Audience, follow Sean, make contact with him, set up that virtual coffee, and as he said, get into that flow and kick ass with him and his team. Sean, we applaud you. We're going to keep cheering you on. God bless you and have a beautiful weekend. Thank you so much.
Yeah, the last thing I'll just share really quickly is if you're listening to this and you've been listening to Juanita and Sifu for a while and you haven't engaged with them yet, I would encourage you to lean in. I would encourage you to reach out. I would encourage you to set up a virtual coffee with one of them to see how they might be able to help guide you, right? They are coaches and they're very freaking good at what they do. So if you have a minute, go to their website, do the thing, get in touch with them, have the conversation for yourself. Don't rely on what other people say, because what other people say doesn't matter. It's you, it's your business, it's your future. You should be the one doing the research to get into that place. And I think Juanita is an incredible person, and she's done some big things for a lot of people. So you should dive in and take a deep look if it might be right for you or not. So thank you for having me, Juanita. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Sean. Have a beautiful day. See you soon.
Ciao for now.
Bye.